Welcome to the Vergecast, the flagship podcast of JMail, the most interesting email client that has launched in recent history.
I do not support this. Whatever it is you're doing, I do not support this.
I'm your friend David Pierce. Neil Epstein here.
Again, I want to just issue my strong condemnation of JMail.
JMail is an email service that exists only to give you a way to browse Jeffrey Epstein's emails. There are just, you like to talk about PhD theses about things, like there's a PhD thesis in there.
Everyone is going to be a conspiracy theorist. You thought conspiracy theories ran America before. Anything you want is in there, and you can turn it into anything you want. And a lot of it is like, I guess that was true.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is where we have to start this week. We have a lot of stuff to get to. It's earnings week, so there's been a lot of really interesting news. It's also Super Bowl week, and there's been a big giant fight about AI Super Bowl ads that I'm excited to get into. Netflix is up to stuff. We're doing Piracy again. Lots to talk about. Brendan Carr, presumably still doing Brendan Carr things.
He's such a dummy.
This is, great. Brendan.
Can I actually say, last week I said all this stuff about politics on the show, and we got a lot of really nice notes, and I want to thank everybody for the really nice notes. Really nice notes. And I sent them around to our team. Thank you. We really appreciate it. And then I got one note that said, "You're bad at politics. I can get better politics coverage anywhere. Stick to your lane where you're good at it," which is Brendan Carr, which is just perfect. Like, just a perfect piece of feedback for the Vergecast. Like, don't do politics except for dunking on the FCC. If I could have designed a career for myself, it would have been that email. That's what I want. I agree with you. The state of American politics should be such that we ignore it, except to say whoever runs the FCC is dumb.
Right.
Like, that's the outcome I'm working for every single day. And with just a small donation to my campaign, you can bring it into reality. Vote Patel.
Patel 2028, really gaining steam. People are talking about it. It's out there. So we do have to start with the Epstein files. This has been the thing of the week. There was another huge millions of emails tranche put out last week. Everybody has spent the week combing through it. One of the fascinating pieces about this to me, like the reason I bring up JMail is this has been such an interesting information delivery story, because what happened is just the Department of Justice uploaded a billion insane PDFs to the internet.
Yep.
And just left them there. Some of them were overly redacted. Some of them were under redacted. It's been a total disaster.
And there's a lot of weird duplicates.
Yeah.
So you can find the same document unredacted that is redacted, which has led to a lot of confusion.
Yes.
There's horrifying photos and videos that are uploaded as PDFs that you can just change the extension to. It's not great. I would not say that the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ, has done a good job here. In fact, in many ways, they've done an actively bad job in an effort to punish the victims and hide whatever crimes from the people that are on their team. There's a lot to say. Like, you can come at the Epstein files on this show, on every show, and every media form, any which way you want. It's all in there.
Yeah. But I think the thing, I guess I wasn't surprised by this so much as sort of dismayed to have it all proven correct. The number of ways in which it turned out that Jeffrey Epstein intersected with the tech community was just staggering. Like, this has been sort of the story that has come out over and over, is the number of sort of bold-faced big names that interacted with Epstein, including people who have maintained for many years that they had no interaction with him whatsoever. Elon Musk is all over the files. Bill Gates is all over the files. There are lots and lots of these people in tech who appear somewhere between, once or twice and over. Sergey Brin shows up over and over. There's just a lot of this. And I think, I don't know, did the volume of this surprise you at all, that Jeffrey Epstein appeared to be in these circles in new ways? I think to me it is like, I've spent too much time looking through these and reading about like how Jeffrey Epstein made his money and how he worked his way into these circles. And there is just so much to learn about the way that this particular kind of rich person's circle works. And every single piece of new information you learn about it is just horrifying and depressing.
Yeah, I share that feeling completely. And you and I were talking just before the show. There are a lot of business stories in here, just straightforward, here's what happened when, and it's interesting, and then it's all so icky because of where it came from and why we are seeing it and why Jeffrey Epstein was involved at all. with some of these people and why they were talking to him. And I haven't yet parsed out how to separate these things. We're going to talk about Steven Sinofsky and the Microsoft Surface in a second here, because the entire story of that device is in Jeffrey Epstein's email.
Yeah.
That's weird, right? And there's my general curiosity about Microsoft's business and the failure of that product, which we covered in real time a lot. And then there's, why am I reading the Epstein files?
Yeah.
And I haven't yet separated those out. Actually, the best thing that I've read about it so far comes from Ryan Broderick, who is a friend of The Verge, someone we've talked to and hung out with before. He writes a newsletter called Garbage Day. Ryan, I think it was a BuzzFeed, right, where he covered misinformation and disinformation.
That's right.
There's a lot of different places where he did this. And he just wrote this piece about Epstein and 4chan in particular. And I just want to read a little bit of it. He writes of his coverage. I believed at the time I understood what was going on. In the aftermath of the Great Recession, far-right extremists, aided and amplified by Russia's Internet Research Agency and funded by Republican dark money, infiltrated fringe online spaces. They weaponized disaffected young men and used sites like Reddit and 4chan to organize a flood of content that influenced the unthinking algorithms on larger platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But there were always holes in that explanation I could never quite account for. So he's saying things like Gamergate and the flood of Trump memes, right? He was like, I think he's basically saying, I thought I knew what was happening. And then here's the follow-up. After he's examined the files, he says, well, I can't say we have the complete story yet. It does increasingly feel like I was actually, without knowing it, following Jeffrey Epstein around the world the whole time. And if you look at the files, yep, that's the feeling.
Yep.
All of these things, these like monumental events in cultural, political, internet history, Jeffrey Epstein is there. Peter Thiel suing Gawker. Jeffrey Epstein is saying, I'll help pay for this lawsuit too. Gamergate, organized on 4chan on a board called Poll. The founder of 4chan met with Jeffrey Epstein and that day reopened the politics forum on 4chan. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And we have a piece about that coming out. That is nuts. If you can trace the decline of Western civilization to that meeting, that is bananas.
Yeah.
And you really can, because in the Epstein emails, he's writing to Peter Thiel, and he says, Brexit was just the beginning. We have a return to tribalism, counter to globalization, amazing new alliances. You and I both agreed zero interest rates are too high. Finding things on their way to collapse is much easier than finding the next bargain. These are just the masters of the universe, and they're going to tear it all down. And
because that's where the money
everywhere in that mix. He's funding crypto. The Bitcoin community is having an existential crisis right now because like 70% of the initial funding of crypto was Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
At the MIT Media Lab.
At very early on, he was a big part of actually pushing it to be an ongoing thing with real funding and resources behind it.
So you can read the stuff and there's intellectual curiosity and the people and the products and their services. And then there's this like overwhelming theme that this man, who is so obviously evil in very literally explicit ways, was also very busily engineering the downfall of the Western order. And that's crazy. Like,
yeah,
like I said, you can find any conspiracy theory you want here.
And people have found a lot of them. I mean, again, going back to the like information retrieval piece of this, there have been every conspiracy theory that anyone has ever had on the internet has been completely vindicated perfectly by the Epstein files. And that is not correct, by the way. Like Pizzagate has made sort of a roaring comeback in that they're like, oh, all the Republicans were talking about Pizzagate, but actually they're the ones doing Pizzagate. And it's like, guys, it's the same thing. They're actually talking about pizza. Like they are actually, people email about pizza sometimes. Like it's fine. And there's a million different versions of that thing. But to me, the struggle for all of this has been, right? Like Jeffrey Epstein, the person, was horrible. He was, at the time of most of these emails, a convicted criminal, and what his crimes were known, and it only got worse over time. There is this question of like, how, in what way are these people who are attached to him implicated, right? There are all these sort of questions about who did and didn't go to the island, some of which I think we have more clarity on than before, some of which we don't, and a lot of things are just emails. And I think one thing that is very clearly true is that Jeffrey Epstein really liked to talk a big game and part of his thing was convincing everybody that he was at the center of everything, right? It's this self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's a thing you see in these circles that like being the connector is a source of power. And so he had to make himself out to be the connector in order to be the connector. And so it just going into this being like, okay, everyone in here is doing something gross, but the like extent and direction of it is very hard to place. Just I don't know, it just leaves me with this sort of bizarre, awful feeling at the end of the process every single time.
There's the I'm a connector, I'm going to talk about everybody all the time aspect of it. And then there's, boy, there are some people that are just live streaming their consciousness to Jeffrey Epstein all the time.
Yes.
And he is their trusted advisor and he's helping them make their career moves. Steven Sinofsky is one of them. The former head of Windows is one of them. But there's a lot of them in the mix.
I was going to say, let's talk about the Steven Sinofsky story, because he's sort of the cleanest example of this.
Yeah. So, the files come out on a Friday, this latest dump, and we were looking through them. And very quickly, we found that Steven Sinofsky, whose wife worked for Jeffrey Epstein and is the connective tissue to Bill Gates. There's a lot of weird Bill Gates stuff in here.
Yeah.
And Melinda Gates is out there giving interviews about how icked out she was about the whole thing. But the person who introduced them, as far as I know, is Steven Sinofsky's wife, who worked for Jeffrey Epstein. So Bill Gates is in the orbit because of Steven Sinofsky, the former head of Windows, and his wife. And in the process of leaving Microsoft, which we reported on was a pretty messy split, Sinofsky is just forwarding all kinds of emails to Epstein and asking for all kinds of advice. And it turns out that he had launched the Surface RT and Windows 8 and the Surface, the first generation products in Windows 8, and they were failing. And he's trying to negotiate his exit from Microsoft. And Jeffrey Epstein is his trusted advisor in that negotiation and telling him how to handle Steve Ballmer and Kevin Turner, who's at the time the CEO of Microsoft. First of all, like, he's breaking his own NDA. Like, I suspect Microsoft is upset about a lot of things here, but they're like, what is Sinofsky doing? Like, they now know that Sinofsky leaked a bunch of stuff to Jeffrey Epstein.
There's a thread in the files that Tom links to in his piece that is actually like divorced of all context. It's just a really fascinating business discussion, because it is like one of the weird parts of this for me has just been like, it's a very clear sense that there are a lot of powerful men of a certain age who just love email. Like, my God, did they love email? Do you know what I mean?
They
in
do
the way that
love
like
emailing.
there are sort of generational shifts in how we communicate, and that is the generation of people who like grew up in business emailing like hell on their BlackBerries, and you can just see it. But the Surface stuff, again, absent all of the external context of the Epstein files, there is so much like wild, obviously confidential business dealing happening in that thread that, like you said, Sinofsky just hits forward on and sends to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, the timeline here is a little important. Let me go through it. So the Surface comes out in November 2012. Sinofsky gets booted from Microsoft. And everyone, when we reported on this a lot of the time, Tom Warren was here at The Verge, and he reported on this very deeply. And it was the same time Scott Forstall got fired from Apple, if you remember. Right. And it was just the idea that sort of like the brilliant jerk genius was over, and we're going to move on from that era. And we got a lot of coverage of Sinofsky bringing a brilliant jerk genius. And it turns out that there's some of that was true. But actually what was happening underneath it was the Surface was completely failing. Yep. So on November 3rd, Sinofsky emailed Ballmer and said, Surface RT sales are in a very tough spot. We might be on the verge of, quote, an unrecoverable situation. And it's just this long layout of all the stuff that he needs to do. And he has got all these ideas. And then like 5 days later, he's out. He's just like fired. And then he's trying to negotiate his exit in July 2013. And he forwards the entire chain. Can you imagine if you were getting fired and you just had a long email chain of all of the decisions and conversations that were made? And you're like, you know what I should do? I should forward all this to Jeffrey Epstein. Steven Sinofsky, everybody.
Yeah.
So we just have all these emails. And the quotes in here are wild. Sinofsky writes, Surface is about to catastrophically fail in a very public way. We don't know how to explain selling 1/10 the number of devices is the lowest end of the lowest expectation. Word will get out soon. There's no long term without this. And he goes on to say, we will be in a spiral very quickly. This project will be labeled, quote, Zune, and this will be a broad failure.
So brutal.
The impact this has on sales in 2013 will be significant, just as we saw with Zune. Our partners won't carry it, the margins will erode, and pretty soon we'll be in RIM playbook territory.
Such a stray for the playbook to catch there.
So like there's just this whole thing where it's like obviously we covered this. Like this happened to us in real time. All of these players were talking to us in real time.
Yeah.
We were reviewing these devices. This is, the beginning of the Verge. This was our heyday in one particular way. And I'm like this is the other side of the coin, and I'm reading it on JMail. And I'm just so icked out by all of it. And if you can tell me how to separate those emotions, send me a note. But it's like I don't even want to do the coverage because I don't want to engage with the source material or the source of the material.
This is what I mean by like the longer you spend in this and the broader the set of names implicated get. And I say implicated in the broadest way. Like Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile, and not every single person in the Epstein files is implicated as a pedophile. Like it feels important to say that out loud. But the association with Epstein runs a gamut from very bad to very bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the more you get into this and the broader it seems to be and the larger the circles become with this man at the center of it, the harder it is to feel anything other than that like the world and this part of the world that we cover is run by a bunch of people who don't care about anything but lowering their tax bill.
Yep.
And that is like one of the most interesting things to me that I spent a lot of time reading about last night was these things called grantor retained annuity trusts, which were a specialty of Jeffrey Epstein. So one of the ways he like worked his way into rich people circles, the New York Times did a really great piece about sort of where Epstein came from and how he made his money. His story is very strange. But one of the ways he worked his way into these circles was he was very good at lowering people's tax bills, in particular by doing this very complicated thing that let you set up a trust so that if you had valuable assets that were likely to get much more valuable over time, like most things, like stock in companies, you could find a way to essentially put that in a trust for your children, quote unquote, that the government then couldn't tax the same way. So he became like a specialist at this and saved people tons and tons of money and became like the go-to for this. And there are all these weird stories about like he made a lot of his money by charging people a percentage of the tax money that they saved. So like crazy, like these private equity people paying him tens of millions of dollars because he's saving them hundreds of millions of dollars on their tax bill. Crazy stuff. And so it puts him at the center of this world because he is the guy saving these people money. And you look at every single one of these CEOs and it's like, okay, in the best case scenario, the most generous read of this is that you are happily associating with a known convicted pedophile because he's going to save you some tax money.
Yeah.
That's the best read of this.
Yeah,
situation.
all these Sinofsky emails happened well after his Florida conviction in 2008. And there's one email in here that we reported on, that the Apple fans are very mad about. But Epstein emails to Sinofsky, Tim Cook is interested in meeting you, but he's worried that you're going to start a thing with Scott Forstall. Right. And it's like, well, he had knowledge of Tim Cook's state of mind. Right. He's trying to arrange a meeting. And then 6 months later, there is a meeting between Sinofsky and Tim Cook. Yep. Like, which
Sinofsky immediately reports to Jeffrey Epstein.
And you're like, well, he tried to arrange a meeting. Like he was in the mix because he's in the mix with everybody all the time.
Yep.
And that is, you can say that's a wide blast area. But here's this guy, he was convicted. It was years later. And yet everyone is talking to him, or enough people in the degrees of separation are talking to him that he has knowledge of concerns.
Yeah.
That he's communicating very clearly without a second's hesitation. There's something here that's icky. And especially when at the end of all this, Sinofsky says, I got my settlement. I think it was like $14 million or something. He says, you're going to get paid for it. Yeah. And it's like, yep, this is the game. By the way, inside baseball journalism, we obviously asked everybody for comment. Nobody's commenting. We don't let like PR people be on background. We don't let them be anonymous. So Tom went to Sinofsky. Sinofsky declined, sent us to his crisis PR company, Hiltzik Strategies. Matthew Hiltzik at Hiltzik Strategies. By the way, also Jeffrey Epstein's PR guy in the files, getting a vendor payment from Jeffrey Epstein. Said, can I talk to him in background? We said no, and then he declined to comment. So you just like the machinations here are everybody wants to anonymously undercut the stories. But if you ask them to put 10 toes down and put their names on a statement, they just disappear.
Yep.
And I think that is, that's us. We're very finicky about that for a lot of reasons. But when Tom said we're not taking a statement, like anonymously. You have to put your name on it. I was like, yeah, this is why I'm a jerk to like food delivery companies that want to anonymously give us quotes about hot dog sales. Like, it's so that we can build up to this. Anyway, that's what you pay for when you subscribe to The Verge. But I think it's crazy that Sinofsky has the same PR guy as Epstein, and that person declined to comment for money.
It's a tough look. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, I think we should move on from this, but we're going to keep covering this.
Yeah. The feedback I'm looking for specifically is there are these business stories in the files, and then there's the nature of the files themselves. And I feel icky about the same way that I feel about hack and leak stories. Like when the Sony hack happened, and we did a bunch of stories about Google and Sony and Hollywood doing DRM schemes. I was like, these were stolen by a foreign adversary of the United States to make Sony look bad for publishing that horrible Seth Rogen movie. Do you remember this? This is what happened.
Oh yeah. The Interview.
Yeah.
Terrible
the interview.
movie.
Like North Korea like decided to embarrass Sony, and then we published some stories out of it because we thought they were important. It's the same kind of ickiness in a much grander scale. So I'm just open to the feedback. We can do the stories dead ahead. We can do the stories and apologize all the way through, or we can just ignore it all. You let me know where you think we should land, because I'm still working it through.
Yeah, and there's a lot of putting pieces out there and putting pieces together left to be done. Again, it is an awful lot of just combing through PDFs on a website.
Yep,
it's weird times. Should we take a break, or should we just plow through?
Let's take a break.
Okay.
Let's come back. We're gonna come back to some sillier things. Let's have a moment.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a break. Neil and I are gonna go do whatever we do during breaks, as everyone likes to imagine, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Super Bowl ads, which are going to be much more fun to talk about. We'll be right back.
Support for the show comes from Zapier. AI seems to be everywhere these days, and there's a lot of boasting about all the things it can help you do. But just talking about it doesn't actually get things done. For that, you need actual tools like Zapier. Zapier is a way for you to break the hype cycle and put AI to work across your company, for real. With Zapier's AI orchestration platform, you can bring the power of AI to any workflow, so you can do more of what matters. You can connect top AI models like ChatGPT and Claude to the tools your team already uses, so you can add AI exactly where you need it. Whether that's AI-powered workflows, an autonomous agent, a personal customer chatbot, or something else. You can orchestrate it all with Zapier. Plus, Zapier is for everyone, tech expert or not. Teams have already automated over 300 million AI tasks using Zapier. Join the millions of businesses transforming how they work with Zapier and AI. Get started for free by visiting zapier.com/Verge. That's ZAPIER.com/Verge.
All right, we're back. Two things in this segment that we're going to talk about, but I want to start with Anthropic and OpenAI and this sort of ongoing bizarreness of who is up and who is down in the AI industry. But my first question for you is, have you watched the Claude ads?
I've watched some of them.
Okay. So Anthropic put out 4 1-minute long Claude ads. I assume one of them is going to be run during the Super Bowl, or maybe they're going to be run in different markets. I don't know. But they put them all out on YouTube, and they have caused, I would say, a firestorm. Next to this, Anthropic also published a blog post explaining in pretty aggressive terms why it will never have advertising in Claude. The blog post is pretty fascinating. It makes a pretty compelling argument against ads, which I think is very funny, and essentially promises like the basic Claude chatbot will never have ads. They said that the interactions you have with your AI bots are so personal and context rich that even the feeling it would give you to have ads in there, even if they were able to handle the data correctly, and even if everything were targeted right, and even if they made all of the correct decisions, that the very existence of ads in these conversations would change the nature of your conversations, which is an argument I find really interesting.
I fully agree with that.
I do too. And this is what I'm going to get into. So these ads come out, this blog post comes out. Notably, neither one of them mentions OpenAI or ChatGPT by name. It's very clearly done at them. But this causes, I don't know, meltdown is maybe too strong a word, but not by much. Sam Altman goes on Twitter and puts out a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 paragraph essay responding. The CMO of OpenAI responds, both of them saying this is disingenuous. This is not what ChatGPT is. This is not what our plans are for ads. It's going to be a whole thing. But actually, before we get too far into this, can I just play you one of these ads? This actually works perfectly as an audio thing. So even if you're just listening, you'll get the idea here.
Hit me.
It's a guy in a therapist's office, and the therapist is a bot, clearly.
How do I communicate better with my mom?
Great question. Improved communication with your mom can bring you closer. Here are some techniques you can try. Start by listening. Really hear what she's trying to say underneath her words. Build conversation from points of agreement. Find a connection through shared activity. Perhaps a nature walk. Or if the relationship can't be fixed, find emotional connection with other older women on Golden Encounters, the mature dating site that connects sensitive cubs with roaring cougars.
What?
Would you like me to create your profile?
And then it pops up and it says, ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude. It's very good.
It's very good.
And it is, I think, if not an exactly accurate representation of what is going on now, it is certainly an accurate representation of what people are afraid is coming for AI.
Well, it's an accurate representation, sort of abstractly, of what it's like to use Google.
Yeah.
Like not Google AI overviews, but Google search, right? Like that's basically what Google is going to do. And even Google is kind of like, we're not doing this AI overview because they know that it's a little twitchy. Like nobody wants that product. No. I think it's very smart of Anthropic to advertise a product that everyone is saying they're not going to build because now no one can build it.
Yes. But so this is what I think has been interesting about this. One of the things that Sam Altman says in his Twitter post responding to this is essentially just that. Why on earth would we build this? Our users would hate it. He writes, we would obviously never run ads in the way Anthropic depicts them. We are not stupid and we know our users would reject that. True. And yet, that is the exact end state of every advertising business. It is the one they are all after. And it's the thing where you go to Amazon and the first 12 products, quote unquote, recommended to you are ads. Or the first bunch of things in search results are ads. It's the thing where you go to Google and most of what's there is ads, but it's not super clear what's what. It's the thing where there are sponsored posts in your TikTok feed that are just like, what is TikTok if not a bunch of people making ads for you, right? The goal is to make this stuff more endemic and more native and more ingrained into the content at all times. That's what the advertisers want. Yeah. It's what works. It's like, this is the slope that every advertising business eventually goes down because that's where the money is.
Wait, I want to actually talk about that for a second. The slope that every advertising business eventually goes down. I don't know that that's 100% true. I don't know that's historically how every advertising business has worked. Before the internet, the advertisers had not totally captured the content, right? Like there's a long history here that isn't just the last 20 years.
Sure.
The thing you're describing, which I would say broadly we can call enshittification, to quote our friend Cory Doctorow. By the way, people should listen to that episode. You did one. It was great. Is Amazon is a monopoly for buying products. And so they enshittified it with ads. Yep. And the advertisers get to be right in your face when you go to buy a product on Amazon. Google is the only search engine that matters. And so they've enshittified it with ads in a particular way. Instagram is the only whatever Instagram is. Like it is now enshittified with ads in whatever way. Also, Mark Zuckerberg and his particular taste about advertising is his platforms are whatever kind of monopoly they are, and his taste has led them to be whatever kind of thing they are.
I think Mark Zuckerberg earnestly believes that really good ads are indistinguishable from content and that is the right thing to build towards.
Sure. I don't know.
He's wrong. I think a lot of other people are more cynical about it. I think Mark Zuckerberg might earnestly believe that if he can just make perfect ads, everybody wins.
I have this idea that we're going to try to get Zuckerberg on Decoder this year. It's like, you make a list at the beginning of the year, like, who should we interview? And he's on there. And if we don't do it, my idea is that I'm just going to read the questions I would ask him. For an hour. Like I have an hour's worth of questions to ask Mark Zuckerberg. And some of them are like, what do you believe?
And then just pause for as long as you think it'll take him to answer.
Well, the standard for a Decoder prep doc is if I just read the questions, it should be a good episode. That's what Kate and Nick and I always talk about.
Oh, that's fun.
And so I'm like, we should just do it. Like he can be here or not. Anyhow, I'm just saying those platforms, those experiences you have are essentially monopolies of format. Right, like Google and Amazon will claim they compete, and certainly Meta thinks it competes with everything under the sun. And we're going to come to Netflix, and Netflix is competing with video games. But the interaction you are taking, they're kind of all monopolies. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Amazon's experience is bad. I'm not going to use Amazon. Really, you can try, and some people do. But like it in its interface, it's able to enshittify itself with advertising. The only reason I bring this up and I'm pointing at it is that is not the case with these AI tools right now. They are, except for maybe software coding specifically, and we can talk about Claude Code and all that. But for the general sort of use case of how do I get along better with my mom, which is what's in this ad, they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah, there's no moat whatsoever.
There's no moat. And so it's funny that OpenAI is having this wild overreaction. And I think it's because they're pretty skittish for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And it's because if they even tried to do that, obviously people would switch to Gemini or Claude. Like there's another thing preventing them from enshittifying their product in this way. And it's not just Sam Altman has good ideas or good taste. It's, in an actual competitive market, if you did this, the first thing people would do was click on Gemini instead and get virtually the same experience in a way that Amazon is not virtually the same experience as Google, is not virtually the same experience as Instagram, and down the line.
Right. But at the same time, what all of these companies are desperately trying to do is build that moat, right? That when there are no switching costs, and to be fair, this is a much easier thing for Anthropic to do to OpenAI than for OpenAI to do to Claude, because OpenAI is the dominant player, and it's much easier to like poke at the big guy who is sort of winning in some meaningful way. There's a great line. OpenAI's CMO, Kate Rausch, I think is how you pronounce it, also posted a response. And there's just a line in there that just says, ChatGPT has more free users in Texas than Claude, parentheses, trademark, has globally. Very good. I don't know if it's true. It's great. It's a great line.
I just want to point out this, her tweet. It's a long tweet. It's just so obviously written by ChatGPT.
Yes.
And it sucks so bad because of it.
Yes, 100%.
That's actually the real problem.
The next line is real betrayal isn't ads, it's control. It's like that is grammatically nonsense. And also, what?
It's like, if you've gotten to this point where your product writes so badly that I can see it 1,000 miles away, and
agreed.
It undercuts your point, that's bad.
Yeah. But at any rate, I think what these companies are desperate to do is build those moats to make it harder to leave. This is what personal intelligence is about. This is what memory is about. This is what all of the different app store stuff is about. The more you can build around these models that makes them sticky and also importantly increases the switching costs, that's how you get to this. And then the penalty for introducing ads goes down because people can't leave, so they won't. So you can keep making the ads worse. This is what if Walmart.com was a real competitor to Amazon, Amazon would be a better looking website. Like, it's that simple. And right now, these things are all, you're very right, they're easy to switch between. They are all sort of, in meaningful ways, indistinguishable from one another. And so OpenAI is the one who is forced to say out loud, we're doing ads, because it needs to explain to people how it's going to make money at some point here, for reasons we're going to talk about here in a minute. But Anthropic, which is a smaller business with smaller commitments to take over the world and build God, is just able to play a slightly different game.
They just talk about it less. Anthropic thinks Claude is alive. Like, can we just say it out loud?
I mean, that's true.
It's just very obvious that they think Claude is alive, and they can't quite bring themselves to admit it. But the way they talk about like their soul documents and like the nature of intelligence, it's like, Dario, do you think it's alive? Because it sounds like you think it's alive.
Yeah. I think if you ask them, that you would get a long answer about the nature of sentience that would really, really bum you out and lead you to believe that, yes, in fact, they do think it's alive.
Super think Claude is alive. So they're just quieter about it, and they are running a B2B business fundamentally. And the explosion of Claude Code and its capabilities, they've been more focused, right? They've been totally relentlessly focused on Claude as an agent, Claude as a business product.
Yep.
We've had their executives on our various shows to talk about that stuff. And so they're ahead because they have focus. Whereas OpenAI has been throwing spaghetti at the wall the whole time.
Right.
And they have believed that the core technology of ChatGPT, the core technology of their LLM, can do everything. And it obviously cannot.
Yep.
There's a lot there. The difference is the enterprise focus of Anthropic means they have revenue that's growing in consistent ways. right? And as more and more businesses adopt it and get useful work done with it, which is really happening now, their revenue is growing faster, but also predictably. Whereas OpenAI has hired basically every single person from Meta, which is funny because Kate Rauch, the CMO of OpenAI, says these ads for Anthropic is running are made by a former Meta executive. And it's like, dude, your entire team is former Meta executives. Your head of product, Fiji Simo, is a former Meta executive. She ran Facebook.
Literally ran Facebook. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They have to do ads. It's the only thing that can make them the kind of money that will justify the kind of investment they're asking for. And you can see, and this is why I think they're so skittish and why they're totally overreacting. Those ads need to be aggressive, they need to be effective, and they need to take market share away from Google and Meta in order to win.
Yes. And
that means they're going to be aggressive. There's going to be real advertising in these products.
And the fact of the matter is, like, historically speaking, the thing that OpenAI has showed us, which is that you're going to have a thread at the top and then at the bottom is going to be a relatively separate display ad. We talked about this last week, right? It's like a 20% of the bottom of the screen just shows a display ad that is kind of about the conversation you're having, but is not part of the conversation you're having. That flatly will not convert in the way that OpenAI is going to need it to, in the way that if it just, the third paragraph was sponsored, that would hit different. It just would. There is more money in putting it in the third paragraph than in putting it at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, I don't want to fall too far down like advertising world, but like Google is the master of direct intent advertising.
Yeah.
Where you just search for, by the way, here's a search I've been doing a lot lately, humidifier that doesn't suck. And if you can tell me what that is, I'll buy it from you right now. I will pay you the affiliate fee.
The answer is the one I bought at Costco that I've already bought 4 of.
Great. And that's how it goes for everybody. And then they all suck. But like you type that into Google, Google's like, here's pictures. Click on one and you're buying it. Yeah. Right. And there's a lot of money in making sure that your picture goes first. You've got to take market share away from that, which, to be clear, is the greatest advertising and commerce business in the history of the world. Well, if you're going to take market share away from that, you have to compete with that very directly. And so I think the reason OpenAI is so skittish, and this is really skittish behavior, is one, they have to have an advertising product that works, which means the advertising will be obtrusive and in your way and try to capture purchase intent. That's just the way it's going to go. And two, if that doesn't work, the other thing that we should talk about is that no one seems to want to give them as much money as they need to do the things that they have promised to do. And now you're trapped, right? You either need to turn on the revenue like fire hose and solve it yourself, or you need to promise your investors or would-be investors that the revenue is coming and they should give you enough money to get there. And that money is like on the order of like $1 trillion. And I'm just not sure that's going to happen for OpenAI.
I think the most clear example of this is Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, who has been kind of randomly, repeatedly asked recently whether this mythical $100 billion deal with OpenAI is going to come to pass. The sort of context here is OpenAI is, by all accounts, A, trying to raise money, and B, racing to go public. OpenAI and Anthropic both seem desperate to go public this year, by all reporting and all accounts. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot going on. There's some XAI stuff happening there too. Like the AI business wants to go public in 2026 in a very real way. I think because the bubble is going to pop and everybody knows it. And if you can get in before it does, everybody's going to get rich.
Yeah. If we were a different kind of show, our episode this week would be, boy, that bubble seems like it's popping.
Yeah, exactly. But Jensen Huang has been asked a bunch of times about this deal that they announced isn't even quite right. They sort of they alluded to the existence.
Well, in the way that like OpenAI in particular announces deals, like it was last September. They're like, Nvidia is going to give us $100 billion,
right?
And they're like, lock it down,
right. And then there are a bunch of details. It was a letter of intent that they were going to do this, not a fully signed and detailed agreement. It was up to $100 billion. So there's just a lot of squirrely things going on. But every time Jensen Huang gets asked about this, it seems abundantly clear he is not interested in giving $100 billion to
And he's
OpenAI.
walked it back in the course of a week.
Yeah.
Right? It was first the Wall Street Journal, I believe, reported this is on thin ice. He's unhappy with the way OpenAI is being run. And then for some reason, and you have to really be in the weeds of the minute-to-minute reporting here, but there's this very funny trend that is happening where Jensen Huang is just on the streets of Taiwan a lot. He's just always at dinners with other billionaires in Taiwan. And so he's always being caught on the street and being like asked, are you going to give away $100 billion? Which is just a weird thing. It's just a weird sub story in this, which is.
It just always makes me think of like the paparazzi who asked celebrities like, who are you dating or whatever, but instead it's Jensen Huang being asked about $100 billion
exactly.
for OpenAI.
It's very good. I have no idea what's going on there. But so he got asked, and there's this long video you can watch where he's like on the streets of Taiwan walking out of a dinner. And he says, I'm very happy with Sam. I like working with OpenAI. I love working with Sam. We're going to invest. It's going to be this amount over time. And they're saying, but it was reported you were going to invest $100 billion. And he says it was up to $100 billion over time. So that's already a walk back. And then like a day and a half later, once again, our man walking the streets, just available. They ask him again, and there's another video you can watch. And he says, no, let me be very clear. We were invited to participate in an investment round. And we're excited to participate because we were invited. But we were just invited. Like it wasn't what I mean, We're happy. We love being invited. And it's like, you've walked this back a lot from we had a signed letter for $100 billion to we love being invited. We might have other plans. Like this is a very naked shift in tone. And then he was on stage at the Cisco AI Summit where all news happens.
Yeah, sure.
And he says what I think is the most like pessimistic thing about AI you can say in the context of OpenAI. He said, the notion that the software industry is in decline and being replaced by AI is the most illogical thing in the world, and time will prove itself. OpenAI's entire thing is that you can just talk to its magic Jesus robot and it's going to do stuff for you, and that you don't need software. And I think a lot of this is people are looking at Claude Code and OpenClaw, which used to be Moltbot and all this stuff, and like saying, oh, look, it's just writing software for itself. But this was the investment thesis for OpenAI, was that it would have an all-powerful AGI agent that would just take action in the world, and you would not need another software business. And all of this money, all this investment would be supported by the idea that all of the money that you were paying to other software would go to OpenAI. And here's Jensen saying, walking back the big investment thesis that he said he was going to have, and then saying, actually, the thesis itself is the most illogical thing in the world. There's something going on with OpenAI.
Yeah.
If you just look at this, there's something happening here. And then in the background of this, just another very funny like side note is just Oracle is randomly tweeting throughout this that it's confident that OpenAI can pay its commitments for Oracle data centers and has nothing to do with anyone else's investments. And everyone's like, Oracle, what's up? Like, is there some reason you're saying this right now? Your shirt that says we're confident OpenAI's money is raising a lot of questions that should be answered by your shirt. And it's like, this is crazy time.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm beginning to understand why Larry Ellison is like, I should sell some Oracle stock to buy Warner Brothers.
Surprisingly chill alternative.
It seems like a much better investment than OpenAI.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting too, because I think next to this also, there's been this news over the last week or so that Amazon is looking at investing up to $50 billion in OpenAI, and that OpenAI's models could power Alexa and Alexa Plus in some meaningful way, in the same way that like Apple and Google just signed this deal. And I think I've heard from a few people is there is the very real anybody but Google energy happening in the AI space right now, where Gemini has made so many huge advances and Google has made these big deals, has made big advances. Google is like a full stack AI success story right now. And there's a real sense in the rest of the industry, like we cannot let Google win, even if it means this sort of weird, strange bedfellows energy has to happen where we're all invested with our competitors in our competitors. And it just gets sort of like messy and Ouroboros-y and weird, but they're like, we cannot let Google win. And it's just so fascinating. And OpenAI is like, both seems more tenuous than ever. And is also, if you were to say, okay, how do I as Amazon prop up somebody other than Google? Like, of course it's OpenAI. That's where you go. Amazon by the way, massively invested in Anthropic.
Yeah. Anthropic is running Alexa right now.
Yeah.
Like it's just clear. Like I have heard Anthropic executives say they can identify the personality of Claude inside of Alexa.
Yeah.
I think they're going to OpenAI because it's cheaper. I think if you're OpenAI, you're now in an economy where you can undercut the bigger players. So Anthropic is having a great run. They're not going to lower prices for their investor, Amazon. OpenAI can show up and be like, we'll be cheaper. And what if what you want is for Alexa to tell people that they're cute and they should keep talking to them to increase their engagement. Like, our product is great at that.
Yeah.
Again, I think the models are becoming commodities, right? They're all kind of effectively the same. It's easy to switch between them. So now it's what you would hope would happen. They're competing on price, and then they're trying to build other moats. And I think Claude Code is one of those moats.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gemini being everywhere is one of those moats. It's going to be an Apple device soon. That's a big moat, maybe an unrecoverable moat. And I just think OpenAI, there's a reason it keeps talking about how many users it has. They think that's a moat. And I don't know, man. My prediction for the year is we don't end the year with OpenAI in the same configuration as it is today.
Yeah. That feels like a less spicy take kind of every single day, which is just a wild state of affairs, that it's February 5th and it already feels like it's kind of in the process of coming true. All right, before we take a break, we should hit on just a couple of weird streaming service-y pieces of news that happened this week. The first one is this Netflix hearing. Did you watch any of this Netflix hearing?
I watched so much of this Netflix hearing.
Did you? Okay, tell me about it. All I've seen is like the clips that have been passed around. Tell me about this hearing.
So, Senate Judiciary Committee holds a hearing just about the deal to buy Warner Brothers, and they have a bunch of characters there. Notably, David Ellison, who owns Paramount, who desperately wants to buy this thing, doesn't go. He says it won't be helpful, so he sends his CO. And senators are mad. I don't know what else to say about this. Now, y'all know me. The idea of the number one streaming service buying the number three streaming service usually just lights me up. Like, that's some antitrust stuff. We shouldn't do that. I want more competition. What are you going to do?
Oh, I thought you meant you were psyched about it. I was like, yeah, Neil famously loves consolidation.
If there's one thing I love, particularly when media companies consolidate to buy Warner Brothers, I'm like, that's good business right there. Uh-huh. That's how we got a 4:3 grayscale Justice League movie, David. The height of culture in America was AT&T paying for a 4:3 grayscale Justice League movie. Anyhow, so normally you would say, yeah, yell at them about antitrust. Yell at Netflix about consolidation in this industry. And you kind of got a little of it from the senators, particularly the Democratic senator. Cory Booker at one point says, can we get back to antitrust? And the reason he said, can we get back to antitrust, is our Republican senators live in an alternate reality where Netflix is a total, unstoppable cultural hegemon, and they're going to make everyone gay if they buy Warner Brothers. There's no other, literally you sum up the concern that Republican senators had about this deal, and they're like, everything on Netflix begins and ends with a demand that you be gay and woke now, right? And poor Ted Sarandos is sitting there being, I don't know what you're talking about. But he can't say it. So, he's like, Senator, we have a wide range of content on our service. There's parental controls. And then you have senators. We just run this clip. The Republican senator looks at him dead in the face and says, you have potentially, and I quote, the wokest content in the history of the world.
It's very good. Let's just
run the clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the question before this committee, and you come before Congress, why in the world would we give a seal of approval or a thumbs up to make you the largest behemoth on the planet related to content? It seems as though you have engaged in creating not only a monopoly of content potentially, but the wokest content in the history of the world. So forgive me if I'm a little concerned.
Senator Schmidt, can I just say, it would fucking rule if Netflix was like, we have the wokest content in the history of the world. I don't know what that means. I don't know what this dude means by woke. Again, my feeling is that when Republicans say woke now, they mean anything that isn't just nakedly racist or anti-trans.
Yes,
we've moved the bar.
Also, do you know what was at the top of Netflix all week this week? Was the movie Independence Day from 1996, which just randomly showed up on Netflix.
I do want to say this. Independence Day is the wokest content in the history of the world. I just want to point, it's very important for me to say this out loud, and then I'll let it go. To believe this, you have to believe that people don't have phones, right? It's like the load-bearing assumption of this line of argument that it is impossible to watch anything other than Netflix. When in reality, Netflix is so threatened by video games that it is actively trying to make and distribute video games on phones. In reality, Netflix is so threatened by podcasts that it's out there buying podcasts to run on its phones. Netflix is so threatened by TikTok and YouTube Shorts that it is turning its mobile app into TikTok. And it's saying out loud that it's doing these things because it has to compete with all the other content that's available. And so, we can argue about antitrust and market definitions and all this, and there's a lot to say about all of that. But the reality is people consume everything.
Yeah.
And if people don't want the woke Dave Chappelle specials that are currently available on Netflix, the super woke Matt Rife crowd work specials that are on Netflix, they can just get them somewhere else, and they will. And I don't know. And I watched this hearing and I was like, man, we are all just pretending that literally YouTube doesn't exist.
I mean, this is very Brendan Carr-y, right? The like, there is no television other than late night hosts is like the official stance of Brendan Carr's FCC. And in this case, it is Netflix is an unstoppable force of culture. And what's funny is Netflix would desperately like to be that, right? Like there's been all this really funny chatter over the last couple of weeks about the end of Stranger Things, and Stranger Things was like a hit on scales that I think are sort of unprecedented. There was a time when I think it was either 4 or 5 most watched things on streaming were Stranger Things seasons. Like crazy huge. And now Stranger Things is over, and this is sparking like an existential crisis within Netflix because it's like, oh, we don't actually have anything anybody cares about. That's why we have to go get Independence Day from 1996 and promote it to our audience again. And like Netflix is very powerful in that sense, but that is a different kind of power than even what like Disney has, right? Which is a huge set of really important, really long-living IP. Netflix has never had that. One of the reasons it's trying to buy Warner Brothers is to get that IP for the first time.
Yep.
So there's just this huge disconnect where it's like, Josh Hawley said that almost half of its content for kids promotes a transgender ideology agenda, which is just like a transparently insane thing to say.
Yeah. And by the way, Ted Sarandos is sitting there being like, how did you get that number?
Yeah. It's like,
did you
can
watch
just
it
say
all?
things, I guess. Yeah.
Are you ranking it?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that always wants these executives to just assert their First Amendment rights. And I felt this way about the social media executives during that period where they all kept getting hauled in front of Congress. It's like, no, the First Amendment says Congress should make no law regarding freedom of speech, right? Like, you're Congress and I'm not. So, like, shut up. Anyway, make me the CEO of Netflix and I'll do that. But I see this push from the Republican side of the House to punish Netflix for wanting to buy Warner Brothers. And again, number one buying number 3, 99% of the time, I think that's bad.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I think Netflix buying Warner Brothers is good. Famously, buying Warner Brothers has killed you. So even as a business decision, I think that's pretty dicey.
Yeah. So you're saying Netflix in exchange for promoting transgender ideology should be forced to buy Warner Brothers and destroy itself as a company.
I'm saying that what's naked about it is Paramount is sitting there, and the thesis here is we will yell at Netflix, we'll make them seem so woke, whatever that means, that Paramount will buy Warner instead, and we know that they will do what we want. And that is just a backdoor speech regulation.
Yep.
That is our government putting its thumb on the scale of free speech in America, not based on what the market wants, not based on where the money is going or who's buying what, not based on who has a good app that works well at streaming videos. Paramount, I'm looking at you. But instead based on whatever they think ideologically aligns with what the government wants. And it was not subtle in this hearing at all. It was absolutely not subtle. Why do you have this show? I don't like that show. My constituents don't like this show. And It's like, wow, we should get away from this.
It really, the social media comparison is a really interesting one because it did remind me of all the times they hauled up like Jack Dorsey and just read him tweets they didn't like.
Yep.
And like, what are you going to do about this? And he would sort of hem and haw and apologize.
And it was, I thought that was totally improper then. And what I always wanted one of those CEOs to do is say, okay, we're going to give you a feed without any content moderation. You don't like our content moderator? Here's the fire hose of garbage that you're asking for, and then you will beg us to moderate. And I think in this case, Ted Sarandos is trying to get a multi-billion-dollar deal done. I understand why he's basically saying nothing, but a little bit of assertion of First Amendment rights from some of these players would go an awful long way. And I think actually the creative community would like to see that from Netflix as well, and they're not getting it right now. But it is pretty naked that at least one side of the house is like, we're going to put our thumb on the scale so that Paramount and CBS, which we now perceive to be our ideological counterparts, will win this deal, which is just not how you want business to work in America, at all.
Yeah, agreed. I'm now imagining what the like very specifically tuned right-wing Netflix would look like. And it's just like episodes of Alone.
I think it looks an awful lot like Netflix.
Fair. There are a lot of college football documentaries floating around on Netflix these days.
I mean, again, this is, we could see whatever we want about Netflix. Like, they get a lot of shit for running Dave Chappelle specials, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they are very proud, free speech warriors for that stuff. And like, they're not getting any credit for it. And I think everybody should look at that. You don't get credit for it in the end when you cave in that way.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, it's 1 buying 3. It's not great. But I think the reason Hollywood is still in favor of Netflix is they don't think it will be as nakedly partisan or in favor of the Trump administration as Paramount seems to be promising it will be.
Yeah. So next to this, in sort of a very funny twist of timing, Disney announced its new CEO, which I have come to think of as a sort of fake ceremony. Years ago, Bob Iger appointed a new CEO, Bob Chapek, and then COVID happened and Bob Iger just sort of ran him out of the room, and then came back and
Chapek did blow it, right? Like, if you piss off an Avenger that bad, the way that he pissed off
but they were
Scarlett
also
Johansson,
like, Bob, why is no one coming to the theme parks? And he's like, well, have you heard of this disease that's going everywhere around the world? Like, there was some stuff going on. It wasn't great. But anyway, Bob Iger now named the new CEO, Josh D'Amaro, who was the head of the theme parks. So one thing I've always come to understand is that the fight at Disney is basically between the executives of the different divisions, and it's essentially like content versus theme parks is kind of the holy war inside of Disney. And in this case, theme parks won. Josh D'Amaro is the head of the theme parks. He's been at Disney for a long time, 28 years. Oversees the theme parks, oversees resorts, oversees the cruise lines, lots of stuff. And is now going to be tasked with figuring out how to make those continually huge businesses, because I think a thing I've seen a bunch after this came out is that actually there is not a sense that Disney World and Disneyland and this like physical business is sort of a rounding error next to all this other stuff Disney does, that in many ways it is actually like the main thing Disney has going for it. It's the biggest
business.
Yeah, it is most of Disney's profit, which it wasn't always, but it is now. And it is also the thing Disney has. Like, we talk about moats, like that's a hell of a moat, is Disney's ability to do all of that stuff around every time it makes a movie makes Disney very powerful. And I like, it's going to be a tough change for Disney because Disney is also doing this huge shift with ESPN, which is about to go fully streaming. They made this weird deal with OpenAI, and now you're going to get to do Sora videos in Disney Plus, which is just a thing that I hate and feels like a complete regret move from Disney. That they're like, we promise to do videos, we'll just put them in a feed over here.
Disney's going to turn Disney Plus into TikTok, and where are you going to get a bunch of content from? You're going to let Sora generate it.
Yeah, you're going to let people turn themselves into Disney characters, and that will be that. But I like Disney, I think, is the other most important company in this space, right? Like Netflix and Disney sort of run the entertainment business in most meaningful ways. And they're both, I think, going through pretty huge changes this year, which is just going to be fascinating.
My thesis about Disney is that they made a big bet on content and trying to be as big as Netflix and paying for content the way Netflix paid for content. And content has been totally devalued.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's expectation is that you'll pay nothing for it. And I think Disney's saying, well, you can't steal theme parks. If you're in the theme park and you're hungry, you can't pay less money than what we will charge you. And you can just see the prices going up and the elaborate theme park rides and renovations going up. And that is a bigger, safer business than we will make expensive content and distribute it on the internet. And in so doing, compete with Instagram's army of teenagers that work for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I keep saying all of this industry is built on the assumption that you're not competing with the thing you're actually competing with. Like, TikTok is right there. Instagram is right there. That's just an army of people working for free. YouTube video podcasts, they look a lot like talk shows, right? They are not making money the way talk shows made, and they are certainly not paying the union rates that the TV networks have to pay for their talk show crews. And so you're just up against this cost structure that will kill you. It will absolutely kill you, and everything is an AG1 ad. That's right. Like, you're up against an industry that is designed to hawk supplements just at a scale never before seen in human history. And you're like, that sucks. We can't pay Scarlett Johansson her bill. We're going to do theme parks because the money is still there and it's protected. There's something there. By the way, I should point out it's Super Bowl week, and we ran a story that I've been dying to run for ages. We had Yanko Ruckers, who used to work with the Protocol, write about the streaming boxes that everybody has, like the cheap, generic Android IPTV boxes. And he wrote about the companies. There's Superbox, there's VCTV, which is an amazing name. They all appear to be botnets and malware. But the story I wanted him to get was the people who buy them and the people who sell them. And I will tell you, that story is just about rage. Yeah. It is just people who are so mad at the TV industry that they do not care that they're buying a hardware instantiation of a botnet to steal TV. Like, they're like, I don't care about these security problems. I'm not paying this bill. I'm going to buy this weird box and plug it into my TV, and probably my entire network will be compromised. I just don't care.
And not only that, there is zero regret or conscience in any of it. There is no feeling of like, I am doing something wrong.
Nope.
And I feel slightly bad about it. It really makes me think of like the sort of peak days of music streaming, where it was like, this sucks. I'm being taken advantage of. None of this exists to serve me. It all exists to make someone else a bunch of money. And in most cases, not even the people who made the thing that I like. It all exists to make Ted Sarandos really rich. Yep. So screw that guy. I'm going to pirate it. And there is this, like, it's almost... It's not only is it not regret, it's almost self-righteous. You know what I mean?
It absolutely is. There's a line in there from someone who's like, what are they going to do? Come arrest me? And it's like, you just see that dude like at his doorway with a shotgun being like, I'm watching this game. Like, it doesn't matter. We actually, more inside baseball, we have an amazing illustrator, Kath Virginia. Her work is all over the site. She's so good. And the first illustration, the opening scene of the story is a farmer's market where people are buying these boxes at a farmer's market next to like banana bread. It's a great scene. So our first illustration was a farmer's market. And I was like, this is good. It's really cute. We need to capture how fucking mad everybody is. Like, there's just an undercurrent of rage in the story. So she went away and thought about it and came back with Calvin peeing on a satellite dish.
It's really good.
And I was like, yeah, that's it.
That'll do it.
That's pretty much how America feels about streaming television right now.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good.
Yeah, and this is what all these companies are up against. You're right, that there is this feeling of the product has gotten worse. It has gotten more expensive. It has gotten more like piecemealed and stratified. All of this sucks. This is for no one. My only option is piracy.
Yep.
That is a very hard thing to win back as a consumer-facing business. Once you've lost a meaningful number of people to that, that's a really hard fight to go win.
You don't deserve my money. It's rough.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people in that story quoted as being like, I hope this puts them out of business, which, by the way, means that there won't be the TV to pirate anymore. No one's thought through step 2, but step 1, they're very clear on, which is...
They already made Independence Day, Neil. I'm good. You know what I mean?
And it appears we'll never pay for another Independence Day again. I watched the sequel. It wasn't any good.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we should take a break. Go read Yanko's piece, by the way. That is one of my favorite things we ran on the site this week. We'll link all this stuff in the show notes, but Yanko's piece is a particular delight from the lead image on down. We should take a break, and then I'm noticing a deeply terrifying amount of Brendan Carr quotes that you put into the Google Doc that we have here. We'll be right back.
Support for the show comes from L'Oreal Group, using the latest advancements in science and tech to create personalized beauty solutions for all. The global beauty leader recently introduced 2 breakthrough technologies that bring the power of light to hair care and skincare. Light Straight and Multi-Styler and the new LED face mask, both of which were recognized as CES 2026 Innovation Award honorees. Learn more about both technologies on L'Oreal.com. L'Oreal Group. Create the beauty that moves the world.
All right, we're back. Neil, I know it's time. We've already talked about how it's time. It's time once again for America's favorite podcast within a podcast, Brendan Carr's Dummy.
He's such a dummy.
We have a theme song.
We have a new one. Joe V sent us another one. Can we run it?
This just continues to be the greatest thing that's happening. Here is this week's theme song. Let's just run this intro again, Neil. Brendan Carr's a dummy.
He's such a dummy.
Brendan Carr is a dummy.
See, he's just a little singer.
It's beautiful.
We got to run at the end of the segment too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I teased this last week because I knew this hearing was coming. So a theme of the Trump administration is being outraged about fraud, which is very funny because it's the Trump administration.
Well, it's other people. You're very mad about other people's fraud.
If you can accuse someone of fraud, literally anything is possible. You can invade their cities and towns. You can do whatever you want. Even as you, and in fact, the principal of the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself, does frauds. I don't know what to say about this. I would point out, for example, that the Trump phone is itself a fraud that we cover regularly. But the Trump administration, if we can find fraud, whoo, are we dining out tonight, boys? So Brendan Carr holds an entire hearing about something called the Lifeline program, which I am guessing most Vergecast listeners don't pay attention to, don't think about, but which is very, very important to lots of people in this country. It is the program that subsidizes phone and broadband bills. So if you are poor, you don't have the means, you need to be connected. To participate in society, you need to be connected. The Lifeline program is there for you. And it's basically just a subsidy program. And it's one of those things that works. Like, it exists up until Brendan. Every FCC chairman talked about protecting it, about funding it. There's some debates on the margins over where the money should come from. There's a thing called the Universal Service Fund. It's all this stuff. But no one thinks we shouldn't have it. No one thinks it's bad. Except for Brendan.
I was going to say.
Who showed up this week and decided that the Lifeline program is full of fraud. And he put out a notice of proposed rulemaking where he claims the FCC's Office of Inspector General found that the states that run their own verification for being eligible for Lifeline are doing massive fraud. And that California is doing all the fraud, 81% of the fraud. And they've taken like $5 million in fraud, which in the grand scheme of billion-dollar government programs is nothing, but that's enough fraud for you to punish California, which notably is a blue state. So Brendan, I'll just read the quote. A recent Inspector General advisory shows Lifeline providers received nearly $5 million in federal providers to provide phone internet services to more than 116,000 dead people in the 3 opt-out states. Of that, 80% of the scams took place in California alone. That type of waste, fraud, and abuse is completely unacceptable. This is Brendan on his high horse.
Yeah.
California notably responds to this, and they say, no, you're just doing the same dumb thing Elon did, which is that you're over-indexing on the amount of time between someone dying and someone being taken off the program. Right? So like there's just a lag time. California's a big state with a lot of people. There's just a lag time in our reporting between someone dying, us being told they're dead, and then being removed from the program. Mm-hmm. Carr's response to this is saying, I'm going through this anyway. I'm radically changing the eligibility rules for the Lifeline program to make it harder to be in it, which is a way of punishing poor people, punishing minorities. We know this is true.
And is, of course, the whole goal.
Which is always the goal. And so you have just the one poor Democratic commissioner remaining on the FCC, Ana Gomez, in her quote, by proposing to use the same cruel and punitive eligibility standards recently imposed for Medicaid coverage, the FCC risks excluding large numbers of eligible households from Lifeline, including seniors, people with disabilities, rural residents, and tribal communities that millions rely on to stay connected to work, school, healthcare, and emergency services. There are ways to fix this. You can think that Lifeline is full of fraud. You can. That's fine. And like I said, there are lots of debates on how to fund Lifeline and whatever. You have to know Lifeline is important. You have to care about the people that need broadband to participate in society. And your goal has to be those people that we think are alive and rightfully taking part in this program are getting the service they need, and we're going to deal with the fraud. Not California is full of waste, fraud, and abuse, and I'm going to doge it up, and I'm going to make it so that almost no one can get this because I don't like Gavin Newsom, which is 100% what Brendan Carr is doing. And in so doing, I think he's punishing people who desperately need connectivity. I also think the entire point of the FCC should be to get this country connected. And they've utterly failed. Across every administration, they've utterly failed at this. So here we are. Brendan Carr is a dummy. He is going to cut lots of poor people off from internet service and phone service in the name of punishing Gavin Newsom. I think that is outrageous. I think it's as morally outrageous as all this First Amendment stuff. As always, Brendan, you're welcome to come on the show, defend your callous and quite frankly un-American behavior, and I'll yell at you a bunch. I think that'll be fun. I think that'll be a good use of my free speech and a good use of your time as government servant. You can come on, you can ping me. People can tweet at you. I know you listen to the show, but you still haven't shown up. Here are the Vergecast. That's it. That's been Brendan Carr is a Dummy, America's favorite podcast.
Brendan Carr is a dummy.
He's such a dummy.
It does. It hits nicely.
It's good.
It's got real beginning of a scene of Frasier energy to it, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. All right,
such a dummy.
My first lightning round is I just want to talk about the ongoing memory crunch and the ways in which that continues to hit everything. Like I just think this is kind of sneakily the gadget story of the year is, can anyone afford to make anything anymore?
Did you read that Wall Street Journal story about Apple no longer being the dominant player in the supply chain?
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. I also just finished the book Apple in China, which I truly cannot recommend highly enough, about the way that Apple's entry into China as a manufacturing country like changed the way that China and Taiwan operate and has had massive ramifications to the technology industry. All very interesting. But the two things that happened this week were Raspberry Pi, the like simple computer. I have one right here. It's a Raspberry Pi. Raising their prices again. Because it is harder and more expensive to get memory. And Raspberry Pi doesn't need that many things, but it needs a little bit of memory. Like, this is not, they're not competing with AI boxes to get, giant quantities of memory for you, but it is so hard to get your hands on anything. I've been hearing from people who are like, you can't get megabytes of memory anymore because this stuff is just, it's not being made. And every single bit of it that's being made has already been purchased in giant quantities by some AI company. But then the other one was Valve. We've talked a lot about the upcoming Steam machines. They made this huge announcement last year, really exciting new hardware from Valve. And they put out a new blog post. Notably, when all the Steam machine stuff came out, didn't announce prices. And in part, that was because of tariffs, which have made everything really complicated last year. There was also starting to be some of this RAM memory crunch. But in this blog post, I'm just going to read you this chunk of it because it is like as honest and brutal as you could possibly ask for. It says, we plan on being able to share specific pricing and launch dates by now, but the memory and storage shortages you've likely heard about across the industry have rapidly increased since then. The limited availability and growing prices of these critical components mean we must revisit our exact shipping schedule and pricing, especially around Steam Machine and Steam Frame. And then Valve said its goal of shipping all three products in the first half of this year has not changed, but we have work to do to land on concrete pricing and launch dates that we can confidently announce, being mindful of how quickly the circumstances around both of those things can change. There's no way to read that other than we have no idea what is going to happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I had this CEO of Razer on Decoder at CS, and I was like, can you predict your pricing for new laptops like through the year? And he's like, I can't predict them through the end of the week.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah. And I think this is hitting bigger and bigger products and bigger players, right? I think we like Apple's a good example. We think about Apple and this other handful of companies as the kinds of companies that have enough leverage and enough resources and enough planning to have made a lot of these decisions ahead of time. And a lot of these companies have, but that's going to run out. Like we are rapidly running at a point where no one is going to be able to get their hands on memory to sell you a laptop. Like that's just coming.
Yeah. Or the bubble's going to pop. It's like,
or there's either going to be a lot of empty data centers or there's going to be a lot of unsellable laptops. Don't know, but it's like this thing, it just keeps ramping up. And we did the holiday spectacular at the end of last year all about this stuff, and the overwhelming consensus is like the solution to this problem takes a long time because it involves building factories. Like either, like you said, there's going to be some giant economic change that all of a sudden these AI companies are not buying this stuff at this kind of volume at this kind of pace, or it requires standing up a huge amount of volume that actually a lot of these manufacturers don't want to stand up because when the bubble pops, they might not need it. So we're stuck in this scary spot for, it seems like, a while longer.
I agree. This is like one of the gadget stories of the year. Can there be new gadgets?
Yeah. It was really funny. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like sort of by happenstance, last year I bought a new laptop. I bought fancy new headphones. I bought a Switch 2, and I bought a camera. And it was just like, it just sort of happened that I bought all of those things in the span of 1 year. And looking back, I'm like, good God, I'm glad I upgraded everything in 2025.
I like that you've taken this story where like the economy is on the precipice of collapse. You're like, I'm really glad I convinced myself to buy a Mac Studio.
Yeah. Good thing I got a Switch 2 when I did. You know what I mean? Great call by me.
Yeah. No, really. Impulse buying this Mac Studio was a great idea now in retrospect.
Yeah, but I think like we're going to keep watching that, but it really feels like that just gets worse and worse all the time.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. All right, what's your next one?
My next one is very funny for a variety of reasons. It's about Peloton, which is just one of the funniest companies around. So V-Song and I have just been chatting for months, and I keep saying like, she covers wearables for us, she covers health and fitness for us, and I keep saying to her like, you are a wellness reporter. You don't want to be a wellness reporter. but like I keep joking that like the entire podcast economy is held up by AG1. Like,
which you've now mentioned twice on this show. Like,
I have a goal. I have a goal for our AG1 coverage. We're going to set it aside. He has a story coming out, which is why it's on my mind. And RFK Jr. is out there saying like the future of healthcare for Americans is everyone gets a health wearable. Mm-hmm. Dr. Oz this week, this is a true thing. Dr. Oz this week said we have to just accept the fact that the best way to get healthcare to rural Americans is with AI avatars, which is just crazy. Like. What are you talking about? Like, we've tried everything to get healthcare to rural Americans except providing them with healthcare. We're out here doing 5G grape surgery with robots, but we're not like, we should just pay for doctors to live in rural areas. Like, there's something about the tech industry right now that is in a collision course with wellness. And I bring this up because Peloton missed its earnings today. We covered it. And at the very end of the earnings call, the new-ish CEO of Peloton, Peter Stern, announced Peloton is no longer a fitness company. It's a wellness company. Here we are.
They're this close to being like, we're a lifestyle brand.
It's super close.
It's like,
well, they're partnering with lifestyle brands. They're doing more strength training. And they said they're doing more strength training content because many more people are on GLP-1s and you need to lift weights when you're on GLP-1. So that's Peloton. So that's all very fun. Like all of that is just, this is just me pre-apologizing to be on the podcast, and she has to be our wellness reporter because it's here. The whatever switch needed to flip that the tech industry is now the wellness industry. I think Peloton just straight up announcing that it's a wellness company now that sells hardware subscriptions. That switch is here. The other very funny thing is that their bikes aren't selling well. They just upgraded the bikes with cameras in them. The cameras can, watch you as you lift weights and do strength training and monitor your form and all this stuff. It's basically the old Peloton Guide camera that was out for a while that no one really bought, and they just sort of like integrated it into the tablet.
Yeah.
So the bikes and treadmills are basically exactly the same. I think the bikes especially are exactly the same bikes. They just have a new Android tablet with this camera attachment on the top. Like that's all that has happened here. And Peloton will not just sell people the tablet as an upgrade. You have to go buy a new bike or a new treadmill. The new Tread Plus is $6,700. And there's not a trade-in program. You can't send your old one back and have them nothing. You just have to outright buy it. And they just will not sell you this tablet, even though people have gotten, like when they've gotten the new bikes, the tablets come in a different box with a sheet labeled upgrade instructions. So they're like designed to be put on the old bikes. And lots of people who have bought both are like, I can just unplug the USB-C cable from my old bike and plug it into the new tablet and it works fine. And they just won't take the money. Like I would upgrade our Peloton to the new tablet because Becky and I both do the strength workouts on the Peloton. Like we would do it. It would be fun. And like, I'm not going to buy a new bike. And Peloton is sitting here being like, we're going to force you to buy a new bike. And instead of taking the money that's in front of them to hit their earnings, they're going to be a wellness company. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I've never seen a company not understand how people upgrade hardware. Like, I don't need a new bike. I need a new tablet. Just sell me the tablet. You can sell me the tablet for a lot of money.
I was just going to say, even wildly overcharge me for the pieces that I need. Like, I if I need a new pedal, charge me twice what that pedal should cost. Like, fine.
It's so dumb. I mean, I'm not saying sell me the thing it costs. I'll pay hundreds of dollars to upgrade the tablet. I've had this bike for a long time. The screen is actually cracked on the tablet. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope, you had to buy a whole new bike. And I'm like, yeah, I'm super not doing that. But instead, they're going to be a wellness company and target their strength workouts to GLP-1 users.
Good times.
It's good. It's good stuff. Anyway, if you work at Peloton and you have any insight over whether they're just going to sell the tablets as they are already packaged to be sold as upgrades, let us know because I'm dying. At some point, Peloton's going to break and they're going to have to sell the upgrades because all the Facebook groups are like, yeah, we're just going to wait for you to sell the upgrade. It's very good.
It's ridiculous. So can I just random brief aside? So right on the other side of this wall behind me is just a little tiny like sort of storage utility room that we've been wanting to repurpose as like an exercise room. So I've been shopping for treadmills and I have never had a less pleasant experience than trying to comparison shop treadmills on the internet. First of all, every single display ad I see now is for treadmills because I guess it's a like thing you don't buy all that often, and they're pretty expensive. And when you shop for it, you shop with intent. So like everybody is super incentivized to just pour ads down my throat about it. So I'm getting them everywhere. But also, I don't know if you're aware of this, but according to the internet, every treadmill is exactly the same and they're all terrible.
That's all right.
Like I literally went to Dick's the other day because I was like, I just need to see some of these with my eyes in person. And then I was like, oh, all of these look the same to me, and just left. So I've accomplished nothing.
Very good.
If anyone has a treadmill you would like to just put in this room behind me, that would be fantastic. I'm going to do just a quick pivot on my next one because there's some breaking news on the Verge.com, which is that Bitcoin is kind of in the middle of just totally collapsing. It's been cratering kind of for a while. It has dropped in a big way over the past week. But just today, like as we're recording, the price of a Bitcoin dropped below $65,000, which for a long time has been seen as kind of a like an intellectual floor. That puts it basically where it was in November of 2021. It gives back all of the gains since the Trump administration. There's a lot of scary stuff happening in the crypto world right now. Bitcoin is believed to be immune to all of this other stuff that is going on, right? And all this stuff around tariffs and all of the sort of frothiness of the market. Bitcoin was supposed to be the thing that solved for all of this and was immune to all of it. And obviously it has not been. As Trump continues to like run roughshod over the financial policy of the United States, that's getting messy. But we're at this moment where like, I have never been sort of a believer in Bitcoin as a thing. I don't think that's, but what this means is that there is a tremendous amount of money just disappearing. And the thing that happened relatively recently that a lot of people really cheered on in the crypto world was it became legitimized in really important ways. You started to be able to buy Bitcoin ETFs. You started to be, more people had more access to Bitcoin, and more like regular people and more sort of traditionally like lowercase c conservative investors were buying into Bitcoin because it was believed that this administration was friendly to it, that it was going to establish some long-lasting crypto-friendly regulations. And now it's just like it's in a tailspin.
And all the shit coins are gone.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin, I don't remember who it was. We had some decoder guest who just very confident was like, Bitcoin is the alpha and the omega. Like everything can happen, everything else, and Bitcoin will remain because it is the only one that's pure and good. And maybe you believe that, maybe you don't. But I definitely believe that all the shit coins were just along for the ride.
Yes.
And they're done. Like they're not going to come back. Maybe Ethereum has some other utility.
I think Ethereum is the only one that might live in the space of Bitcoin. Like it's Bitcoin
because it has this other utility associated with it.
Yeah, like Bitcoin is in its own tier. Ethereum is probably below it in its own tier, and then it's just nothing, like a bottomless pit of nothing.
You don't think Dogecoin is important? I will ask the same question I always ask about Bitcoin every time it comes up. No one has ever made a case for why you should transact in a Bitcoin. Until today, if you had a Bitcoin, the only rational thing to do was hold it. And that, I'm sure today people are still saying you should hold it. But if you could not make a case for actually using a Bitcoin as a currency, there was no case to be made for Bitcoin. And the only case that anyone would ever really make was you can do crimes with it, which is probably why Jeffrey Epstein was so deeply invested in making sure it happened.
Sure. I mean, there are a lot of people in my life who are crypto people, and the ones I've respected all along were just the people who were like, this is a way I'm going to make money. Like, it's fine. Treat it like an asset class, right? Like, don't stop pretending to me that it is the future of anything on the internet. It is just a way to put money into something and hopefully make some money.
I just had this
thing.
image of you and like your baby son talking about crypto, and like Arthur Lewis being like, we're here to make money.
It's not. Let's just say there is a group chat that I'm in.
Okay.
At least one of whom listens to this podcast. So hello to you. And some members of that group chat were forced to start a crypto-only group chat because the rest of us got tired of listening to them talk about crypto.
That's great.
This is where we are.
That's very good.
And but to me, it's like we're at this place now where at least it was supposed to be stable, right? It wasn't the whatever, like Bitcoin to the moon, whatever. But this is like, there are real ramifications to this thing, especially that people in our world have spent a decade investing in that just wiped itself out.
More than a decade.
Yeah.
Way more than a decade. We're 15 or even 20 years into Bitcoin. again, I'm just going to point out, like, the idea that it was stable really rested on the idea that it was an asset like gold and not a useful currency.
Gold, by the way, absolutely crushing it recently.
Well, now you know. Now I know what you're going to talk to your group chat about. When
this is the thing, right? Like, I think this is going to be, if nothing else, even if the price recovers, this becomes a really useful piece of evidence that actually the thing you thought Bitcoin was, even if you boiled it all the way down, it's not that. It turns out it's actually nothing.
I'm not going to pretend that I'm a finance reporter. One of my group chats is with a world-class finance reporter. She routinely takes me to school. So, like, I'm not even going to try to pretend. We should, actually. That'd be fun.
But at any rate, that $65,000 mark was viewed as like an important threshold, and it is below that and falling.
All I'm saying is the tech industry invented a bunch of stuff that wasn't useful, and Bitcoin was like the number one thing that wasn't useful of this whole time. NFTs weren't useful. They just went away.
Yep.
Crypto broadly, no one could identify a use for crypto. And Bitcoin, except for it's going to get me rich. That's it. That's all anybody had. There's no reason to transact in Bitcoin.
Not to full circle back to Jeffrey Epstein, but it turns out that that's enough for an enormous number of people. Yeah. And this is the thing that always drove me crazy. Like, just say it's about the money. Like, stop pretending you're about anything else.
Yeah. This is just another tangent, and I promise I will tell a joke about Google. I swear to you, I will. At the beginning of sort of the AI boom, we got a lot of notes. It's like, why are you covering this? It's just crypto again. And like, yeah, like you can squint and be like, yep, the GPUs are all the same. Like, it's a bunch of data centers doing a bunch of nothing, right? And we're even at the point now where, it seems like a bunch of AI CEOs are kind of like begging you to use their products to support the valuations. And there's some parts of this that rhyme, but right underneath that is like, oh, it's actually useful, right? In like some cases, in some ways, some people are finding real uses for AI, and that's what makes it different. And I just keep coming back. The tech industry, after doing smartphones, did not find the next most useful thing. And crypto is just high on my list. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but the idea that no one for a decade has been able to tell me why I should spend a Bitcoin has always been the biggest red flag for me.
Yep.
All right, here's my joke about Google. I'm just going to read the headline. Ready? Google Home finally adds support for buttons.
Okay, this is huge news. Don't undercut this.
Is it huge news?
So, can I just give you a brief
all
bit
that
of
AI, and here we are.
My favorite part is Jen Tui wrote a story about this, and the top of the post is just a finger pressing a button. It's like, well, how else do you illustrate this story?
The tech industry.
Yeah. So Jen came on the show on Tuesday to answer a hotline question from somebody who was enraged because they had bought IKEA buttons that didn't work on their Google Home. And Jen was like, it's not you, it's Google. And Jen and I recorded this at like, I think it was like 11 a.m. Monday morning. The show went out on Tuesday. And between then and the launch of the show, Google announced buttons. So does Jen get credit? Does this mean Google's phones are listening to us as we talk and they finally ship the thing? Who's to say?
I think it's very funny that everyone's so excited about these IKEA buttons and they just like didn't work out of the box.
Super didn't work.
It seems like IKEA is scrambling.
Yes.
It also seems very funny that the major smart home platforms are so bad at the concept of buttons. Can I show you my Apple Home notification for a button in our, like, on the door to get out of our house? It's just a button that turns on a light.
Okay.
So Apple Home does support buttons, but it does not support buttons as toggle switches. Right?
Okay.
So you can have a button that turns on a light.
Right.
But that same button cannot then turn that light
That's
off.
why the IKEA buttons are 2 buttons.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of those buttons, Vergecast listeners know I have a smart garage door opener, right? Mm-hmm. So in order to make one of the buttons on the smart control panel both open and close the garage, I had to write a script in shortcuts. It literally checks the state of the garage door and then does the opposite thing whenever you push the button.
No.
And it's like, I shouldn't have to do this. Like, there's $1 trillion of R&D in this phone.
Seriously.
You should support toggle buttons. So anyway, I'm proud of Google for arriving here at buttons at all. I would like to convince all of our richest companies in the world to consider the concept of buttons that both turn on and off. Just think about it. It's right there for you.
That seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot. That's what Claude Code is for.
I hear Matter is working on that for 2037. It's going to be sick.
We should mention one last thing, which we can talk about next week. I picked Google Home buttons. We needed something light to end on. But it is true that Elon announced that he's going to merge SpaceX and XAI, which means SpaceX will own Twitter, which does feel like a full hour of the Vergecast.
It does.
So we're going to set that aside.
I think at some point in the relatively near future, we're going to have Liz Lopato come on and we're all just going to yell at each other about IPOs. And it's going to be our least popular episode ever, but we're going to have a great time.
Very good.
All right, but for now, we should get out of here. My last one, by the way, is we talked a little bit about Aluminium, the Google OS combining Chrome and Android. Sean Hollister did some great reporting and found some documents that suggest that is going to A, take longer, and B, be messier than you thought. So all of the hopes that you did not get up about Aluminium, keep them low. You know what I mean? Like the year 2034 was bandied around several times in that piece. It's
good.
It's
some
rough
good
out
stuff.
there. But all right, we should get out of here. Keep sending us emails. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the way we were talking about all the Minnesota stuff last week. I genuinely, you and I both, I think, want to hear how we should keep covering the Epstein stuff, how we should keep covering sort of what this means for the tech industry, how we cover the business stories inside of it. Like, can we just write about the Surface RT without having to write about the Epstein files? I don't know.
By the way, Sinofsky is just tweeting about shipping software right now. Yeah. No thought to what's happening in the background.
The amount of posting through it that is happening right now on X in particular is just astonishing.
It's quite a lot.
But anyway, that's it for the show. Thank you to all of you for writing in. Thanks to everybody who calls the hotline. We got a lot of fun stuff. People have sent me a lot of phone recommendations. Neil, did I tell you about this?
No.
I'm beginning a phone journey. I'm tired of my iPhone 16. So I've decided that instead of just getting a new phone like a normal person, I'm going to try every phone I can find. And then, I'm not a phone reviewer anymore. So I haven't used all the new phones. So I'm going to go use all the new phones and then presumably never be able to successfully text anyone ever again.
That's right.
But I'm going to get a new phone and I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited for you.
The funniest outcome here is if I just buy an iPhone 17. It will piss off everybody, but I'm very excited about it. All right. Keep emailing us, keep calling us. Vergecast@theverge.com. 866-VERGE11 is the hotline. The Vergecast is a production of The Verge and the Vox Media Podcast Network. This show was produced by Eric Gomez, Brandon Kiefer, and Travis Larchuk. We will see you next week. Nilay.
Rock and roll.